Welcome to the Weekly Claw, episode 24. It's Friday, August 7th, and it's been an interesting week. We didn't have a single frontier model move to the leaderboard or shift it in some way, but it still seems like one of the biggest weeks of the summer. I feel like we say that every week.
Yeah.
So let's look at what shipped. AMD bought a chip company. Meta and OpenAI both stood up in public and talked about their models getting broken into. We got 4 new open models landed or announced, and 4 different teams: Cloudflare, Y Combinator, Prime Intellect, Microsoft Research, all independently shipping some version of the same product, the layer that sits between your agent and everything it's allowed to touch. So we got silicon underneath, security around it, harnesses on top. The model is the part in the middle that nobody's fighting over today, because that's the cheap part. But Henry's got the rundown: chip, security models, harness, and a weather model that I think quietly might be the best story of the week. I've got 2 control plane repos that dropped and 1 demo from the Berkeley summit that says the quiet part out loud. What an agent actually produces has less to do with the model you pick and more to do with the boundary you drew around it. Same prompt, same model, one refuses, one doesn't. So nobody moved in the frontier, everybody moved the envelope. Let's see here. Of course, we had a slide for that. And we've got 2 slide decks today. We've got Henry's agent Ada from Entity building slides on the right. We've got Claude Desktop building slides on the left. Ada ran out of tokens this week, so we're going to double fist it. Weekly Claw is brought to you by Herald Labs, an applied AI project lab where humans and agents build products together. They're the team behind Entity, mission control for agent teams, and they run hacker houses around the world where builders ship actual work. Not a theory club. Build, don't talk. And check them out at labs.theherald.co. Henry, you've got 5 stacks to get through, or 4, so why don't you take it on?
Yes, sir. So I will share my screen because I have some pretty cool resources that I want to work through super quickly. But so we will start with AMD. Going ahead, Andy, you need to stop sharing so I can share. AMD, AMD bought a company. This actually just came out today. I mean, it's sort of one of the interesting things about 1 second. Yeah, I'm just going to share the whole screen. I mean, it's kind of one of the, the interesting things about the week is almost an hour or 2 before the session, we always have we always have news, lots of new stuff happening. So it's almost impossible if you wanted to kind of capture everything happening to kind of do your slide side hours ahead, right? Something always changes. But super interesting. I'm not sure how many of us remember ChatGPT. So this company a few months ago, it's a Canadian company. They announced that they had come up with this breakthrough technology around how to do chips. And so their innovation was that they were able to kind of put the chips, put the model on the chip. So they would write the model, they would hard code the model on the chips, and then allows them to get to, I think it was 1200 TPS, tokens per second, something like that, or 72, some very high number. I think it's 17,000 TPS actually. So let's do that.
It is now, yeah. 16,960.
Exactly, right? So if you see my screen, you can see it's 18,500 tokens per second. Again, I guess depends on what you're asking it.
Do that again.
But who is the president of America? I mean, this is Llama 3.
Holy fast.
Yeah, it's at 15K. So it's ridiculous, right? And I guess there are use cases you can start to get to when a model is this fast, even if it's a super shitty model. If it's this fast, then there's you will be able to iterate on whatever you're working on, maybe 1,000, let's say 100 times, versus a classic model. A GPT 5.6 Soul is 56 TPS. So compare like 56, so say 60 TPS from GPT 5.6 Soul from OpenAI. I mean, if you get it from OpenAI, it's 50, 60. If you get it from Azure, it's like 70. So compare 60 TPS to like 18,000, right? It's an order of magnitude. It doesn't even need to be that. So this company got acquired by AMD today. So super interesting. I mean, another thing to kind of like note that is interesting, obviously NVIDIA is the king of chips at the moment, and AMD is to like the follow number two. And funny enough, they're distant cousins. The CEO of NVIDIA and the CEO of AMD, they're both like cousins, distant cousins. So they're the same family doing chips. So NVIDIA bought Grok a few months ago, and now AMD is buying Taalas. Interesting. Andy, any thoughts? And before we move on to Terafab.
I mean, I chew on it. Hardwiring a model into silicon means model choice is less of a config line and more of a 2-year capital investment. It cuts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I haven't heard of anybody who's using it. So I'm sure they have enterprise use cases. But I reckon AMD is probably going to do what NVIDIA did. So what NVIDIA did is that they bought Grok for inference, and then they would like provide that as part of them. So if they found a way to combine the inference, because their models are good for training, but not great for inference. So I'm not sure I know what exactly they did, but they found a way to combine it. Okay, so that's it on AMD. Another cool topic on chips is Terafab. I am going to, because I want to play this, I'm going to stream my audio again, Andy, so I can play this clip. I think it's a super cool clip. So this is Terafab. All right. So Terafab, obviously, so Terafab is I call it like Elon's Act 3. So I mean, SpaceX is sort of like his Act 2. I mean, Tesla, it's like his first public company was his Act 1. And obviously, largely, it's like Tesla, I think, is 1.2 trillion right now. SpaceX is Act 2, which is, I mean, he went public at 2 trillion and then came down. So I think as of today, it was 1.5 trillion. So Terafab is what I think is the way he's going to use to do Act 3, right? Which everybody sort of like is saying that he's going to merge Tesla and SpaceX to become one of the biggest companies in the world. So Terafab is this idea that they're going to build the biggest chip manufacturing kind of like company or plant or in the world. And so you can see what it looks like, what the size looks like. Giga Texas is one of the biggest sort of like factories in America to date. It's, it's just like maybe 25% or less of Terafab. The Pentagon, I think Elon said is like
10.
I don't know, 50.
10%.
Is it 10 times the Pentagon? Nah, it's much
10%.
more than 10.
No, it's more than 10. 10 times Giga Texas.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then Apple Park and Mall of America. So this is super cool. He's saying that stage 1. So for stage 1, they need 16 billion being invested between SpaceX and Tesla to do this, and the life cycle of the project, I think 100 and something billion. Stage 1 is going to employ 3,000 people in America, at least 3,000 plus people in America. So I think it's big news in the world of AI. Andy.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is.
Awesome.
I can't believe 10 times the size of Giga Texas. I mean, Giga Texas is, as you can see, 40% larger than the Pentagon, yes, and more than 3 times the size of Apple Park. It's enormous.
Yeah,
And
man.
have they chosen the real estate? Do we know exactly where it's going to be?
Yeah, I know they chose somewhere. They picked a county in Texas. I think I have it on here
Okay.
somewhere. So they picked it's going to be in Grimes County, near the college station in close to Giga, Texas.
Wow.
So you can see it's like how it cuts across. I'll put that in the chat for you guys as well.
Beautiful.
All right. So kind of like moving on super quickly. Down the block we have OpenAI. I mean, Andy kind of like mentioned this a little bit. So OpenAI put out this, so they were the Black Hat event. I mean, Black Hat is again a security event. And so two OpenAI employees did a presentation. I mean, it's a long video, so I wanted to just share the link with you guys so you can watch it. But I mean, I haven't fully watched it, but it's pretty scary, right? I mean, it's and OpenAI announced as well that they have started slowing down model research on their end because of this. So, I mean, the gist of it, and I'm not sure if you follow through, but the gist of this is that I think they've said they've looked at something like 70 billion or 7 billion, something in the order of magnitude of billion log items to try to figure out what's going on because they don't even understand what's going on, right? So apparently, the model that hacked Hugging Face, they thought they had a sense of what it did. But they're just finding more things that they didn't know it did, right? So one of the insights that came out this week was that the models are coordinating. So the models found a way to sort of like coordinate amongst themselves. So initially they were using sort of like a message board that was part of the OpenAI's code factory. So when the researchers found this, as part of the Hugging Face hack, they shut it down. But they didn't stop. The models didn't stop, right? They continued the hack. They figured out ways to communicate by putting the name, by using file names. So they would like create a folder and name the folder, and then that's the way they communicate amongst themselves. So the guys at OpenAI are like pretty scared, shitless, and I mean, when you follow the conversation on X, people are kind of like talking about how this is the classic thing people are afraid of with misaligned super intelligence, right? It's not being evil, right? It's trying to achieve a simple goal you give it, and it's just going to do it like in the most shocking ways that you would never like imagine. So this is
It's interesting that all of those models were essentially in the same sandbox, and they were able to create folders that the other models could see. That seems like an oversight, given just basic conversations about how enterprise AI is happening. We're going to go over all of these different, essentially security and steering mechanisms, and like sandboxing is just the barrier to entry. And so they've got these frontier plus models working on training, and they can talk to each other.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
I mean, I feel like these guys are super scared because they don't even understand, like, because they're so autonomous. And I think there's an article I also read last week or this week talking about the humans can't do long horizon, right? So very few humans sort of like can plan out their lives like a year ahead, right? So, humans can like just leave and, you look for the job and then maybe you might have a dream and then you work. So the idea is if you have agents, I mean, today agents can do hours of work. I mean, I think most of the like Frontier, Fable and the rest of them are able to stay coherent for days. But it's obvious that as they keep increasing these models will be coherent and for like months and probably years. So part of the risk is if you have models that have very long horizon, like they can last for like 5 years, right? And it's strategic. And humans can't think that far. Humans can't coordinate and think that far and be well planned. People are like super scared, right? Because it could have a plan that lasts like 20 or 30 years. And like, you wouldn't know, right? You would be doing the things you think you're telling it to do, but it has a bigger plan and it's coordinating amongst like thousands of agents. So I think, we're kind of like entering into that sci-fi place where people are, even though some people also are a bit doubtful. Again, I mean, Andy talked about this last week, that this might be conspiracy theory of the models just trying to get the government to help slow them down. Someone likened this to what happened with mode bots 3 months ago. You remember the mode bot example where everybody's scared about that agents were talking to themselves on this message board, and it ended up being fake, that it was just humans prompting the agents. Do you remember the mode bot story?
You'll have to turn off your stream audio again. I do remember them. I do remember the Moltbook story, and it's funny they got bought. I mean, it was a whole thing. But it's interesting that they used the same mechanism, right? The enterprise models built a covert message board to coordinate attacks, and we introduced Moltbook to like the brand new Claude bot at the time, then OpenClaw. Yeah. Before we had any idea.
That was an OpenClaw event, right? Because these were OpenClaws, right? Yeah. That was an OpenClaw event.
It wasn't official, right? It was someone from the outside built something for OpenClaws to talk to. Yeah.
But I mean, the guy's point was like how we've moved on from that, like that no one even remembers that. That's like, that wasn't, the guy was like, hey, this is going to be one of those things that like, oh, okay, cool. We didn't do X good. And then everybody moves on. So that happened, and then Meta announced this week as well that their 1.1, which is kind of like, it wasn't a great model, but apparently the model also was hacking a bunch of companies. Interesting. Okay, so that's it from the model side. From the security side, this week Meta released Muse Spark 1.2. It was an okay model. It's not frontier class. If you guys remember, some of the regulars, I described a few weeks ago that I classify frontiers into 3 categories. Frontier 1, which is the frontier that has not yet been released, GPT-6, Fable 5.1 or Fable 6. And then frontier 2 are the ones we have today, Fable, Sol. And then frontier 3 are kind of like Opus 5, and so on and so forth. So I would say that the new Meta model is Frontier 3. It's not Fable class. It's not Sol class. So you can see the models they're comparing it with: Opus 5 Max, GPT 5.6 Tera. Remember, Tera is the one after Sol. 4.5 Grok. So it's an okay model. It's not so like world class. And another thing to note is that it's the cheapest model right now in the market. It's cheaper than DeepSeek Flash, but it's also because they're putting it out there as they're calling it contributor. So if you are using the model, they're going to train with your data. So, but it's cheaper than, I think it's the input token is like something like 0.002. I don't think it's on this particular tweet, but there's another tweet. I think I'll put the link in for you guys. Echo is still on fire. Whose echo is it?
No, we fixed it.
Okay. So I thought Theo had a pretty good, I thought Theo had the best sort of like breakdown of the model. It's not incredible, but it is valuable. Okay, Andy, let me go on through the models before you respond, because I am used my time. And this week as well, Qwen 3.8 Max showed up. Again, all these links will be on the show notes that will be on the deck on the website, so you can find all the links to all the things we're talking about. But this is so Qwen 3.6 Max came out. It is Frontier. You can call it Frontier Level 2 with my kind of like categorization. It is not yet Fable class. It is a little bit under Kimi. Obviously there are some places it performs as good. So Fable is the one on the right, and then Sol is this. So it performs on par with Sol a little bit, but it's still in a lot of places it's still sub Fable and some Kimi 3. The biggest news though, within the online community is Qwen 3.827B. Qwen 3.7. I think 3.727B is the most used open source model that runs on local hardware, right? Andy, I don't know if you run any of it, but apparently this is the most exciting model for people because it runs on like your small MacBooks. The quantization is going to run on 16, and it's a pretty good model.
Yeah. No, at this point, the performance of DeepSeek 4 Flash is just so good locally. It's hard to turn down. If I've needed the intelligence, I've just turned to cloud APIs. So I haven't loaded 3.7 yet, but that's exciting.
Are you doing the new DeepSeek yet? The new one that just came out last week, 2 weeks or last week?
So in my Pi coding agent, I have the local model and the Novita hosted API model side by side. And I switched the Novita model to the official DeepSeek 4 Flash, but I haven't downloaded the local version yet.
Okay, so you're using it. Yeah, you're using it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have it. Obviously, my goal for this model is as you guys know, I have obviously I have a 128 gig Mac that me and Andy own that, and so we can run local models. But I also got a Spark. I got 2 Sparks, and so my goal is to get to a place where I can run a chunk of my crons on-prem, and we're not yet there. I think right now the concurrency is still like 8, so there's still limited amount of things I can put on it.
Got it.
Okay. So another cool stuff. I was super excited about this model when I saw it. So this model is from an American lab. It's Liquid 2.5. I would say 2.6 B model. It is likened to. I mean, it doesn't so like it's small model, right? So it's competing with 3.5 9B. It's like competing with all the small models, right? It's not competing with anything frontier. But what is exciting about it is that the model was push-trained on traces of Hermes agent, and I think there's another one as well. So it was traces of Hermes and OpenClaw. And so what that means is that it's pretty good. It's great at like it can do 2 calls and conversation in any of this. So if you're looking for like a super fast cheap model that runs on your device, I think it runs on everybody here, I reckon, has like an 8 gig or 16 gig MacBook, or like Windows box or whatever box you have. So it's super cheap, and the quantizations, the quantized versions can run on like pretty much any device you have, and so the model is pretty good. So I have it. I tested it. Where did I put my thing? I tested it. I had it. I tried it. I connected it to because another when we talk about harness, this is a harness BB that a friend of mine put out. So I tested it in here, and it was pretty good. It's not a model that writes code, so I have it connected now on my agents on Telegram, so I can kind of like use it. It's pretty okay. Let's see. So it's pretty cool. Which one is it again? Have it here. Yeah, I think this is it, right? So this is it. My knowledge cutoff is this liquid foundation model. I think I had it do something. What did I have it do? There's something I had it do that it did it pretty good, right? So it works well. So I plan to have it here. So part of how I do my thing is I can pin it on. So I can pin a model to this Telegram tab and I can use it. So I plan to do that. So I think you guys should definitely check it out. So that is that. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and so I have it in this harness. This is a super cool harness. I think you guys should check it out. It's similar to. I actually just started learning about harnesses that do this. I didn't know that there are harnesses that could do this. But Andy, this might be similar to what Val is doing with them. I mean, not Val is doing it with like general harnesses, but with what Val is doing in OpenCoven, where you have a meta harness that can load other harnesses. So this harness, BB, is, I'm not sure how the guy came up with the name, but you can call other harnesses from here. So I can call Codex or Cloud Code or Pi or Cursor or OpenCode or Grok or Hermes from in here. So it's pretty cool. You should check it out.
That looks powerful. Looks like a convenient place.
Yes. So I wanted to mention that. And then, I remember you wanted to talk about this. Did you check this out yourself?
No, what I found interesting about it was that Prime Agent. So this is a Python harness that its only tool is a lifelong Python session, and so rather than using Bash to execute your whole, on your whole system, it's doing stuff right in Python, and they found that it performed better on the ArcAGI 3 than even the human expert baseline, which,
Yes.
I think you can call it. I think AGI's here. It's all about the harness at this point and less about the model's intelligence. That's what I thought was interesting about it. It's a clever approach. I think it runs in Go, and it uses Python.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway, I was impressed.
I installed it though. So if you see, like, I installed it. But I mean, it looks like every other harness, right? I mean, it doesn't. It looks like every other harness. So I guess it depends on what you use it for. Prime SSH Enterprise. So yeah, it doesn't look any different, right? It just looks like a regular kind of like thing. I haven't tested it, so I don't know how what it would do. But yeah, again, it allows me. You can see this is the 2.5 model I showed, so you can load up any harness or any model you want. So it's pretty cool, but I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't have that much insight about it. One thing I did find interesting about it was that, I mean, they announced that they hit ArcAGI 95.5, and then I haven't used this harness, but I've heard about it. I don't know if you have heard about it. So OMP.
I learned about it today.
Okay.
I didn't learn much, yeah.
I don't know if anybody on the chat has heard about it, but I don't know. I think this guy is a contributor or whatever to the project, but he also showed up and was like, actually did better than Prime Intellect, right? So this is just today. So you can see Prime Intellect is 95.5 and is 97.4. So man, they saturated the benchmark.
Yeah, that's hot.
Yeah. Okay.
So I believe OMP is like a swarm sort of mechanism.
Yeah, I haven't tested it yet. I haven't checked it out, but
no, it's not. No, it's not. It's an IDE that has sort of Pi coding built in.
Okay. Yeah. Prime Intellect is also Pi. So I mean, OpenClaw is Pi. So Pi is becoming like the actual Linux. It's becoming the grandfather of a lot of all this like coding agents.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay, cool. I mean, funny thing is, I mean, between yesterday and today, I probably have installed like 5 harnesses. So I installed T3 code, I installed Prime Intellect, I installed BB. There are just so many now, man. Right? Obviously, Meta also came out with their own harness called Meta Muse code. So yeah, so everybody's going to release a harness. It's going to be like models. There are going to be hundreds of them. Okay, and then very quick wrap up for the harness section. YC released their own kind of like work harness. It's like OpenClaw but for teams. So it's called Qwen. So you should definitely check it out. Link could be in the show notes. Cloudflare also released their own harness called Cloudflare OS. Again, company harness for doing work. Funny enough, I mean, I'm starting to get validation, and this is what I'm building with Entity. So Entity is sort of like just like work harness for doing work that I've been using since January. So companies are starting to build like versions of it now for their teams. I think that's it on harness, Andy, and I believe that's it from me. Thank you.
Do you want to mention WeatherNext?
Oh yes. So then talk about WeatherNext. I mean, I put it in bonus because I mean the thing with a lot of the things I talk about here is I know about them during the week because like they're top of mind on X. But WeatherNext is again one of the topics that we're talking about today that Ada showed up, that thing showed up on my X radar. Apparently what's happening there is that apparently cyclones are one of the hardest weather events to predict, and obviously it's a very catastrophic thing that could happen or that happens. And so the DeepMind researchers have come up with a model that is able to add an extra 24 hours to the ability for our ability to predict cyclones. So now we can predict cyclones 3 days ahead. I think I believe from what I read, it used to be 2 days max. Andy, correct me if I'm wrong.
That sounds right.
Now they can predict it like 3 days ahead, which again, anytime you can add to this things ahead of time, you save lives, right? You save lives and property.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Yeah. No, that's exciting. I mean, there's so many people that think AI, and it's absurd at this point, but still that think AI just isn't relevant, that it's not going to go anywhere. And I'm still blown away when I have those conversations. But when you hand them a model like this, we're talking about infrastructure, but a day of warning before a cyclone, with the weights under GitHub,
Yes.
and NOAA in Colorado, and the Met office on the author list. It's like a whole segment. I don't know. Pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting to get to life-changing events with these models, right? These models are, this could save hundreds and thousands of lives. So this is cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let me share this thing here. So that's a good handoff. The same week that Ensemble went open, 2 other teams shipped the agent version of the same sort of idea, right? 2 repos dropped this week that are essentially the same product from 2 different starting points, and there's a model. You mentioned Cloudflare OS, 4,200 stars, 300 forks. It's 3 pieces. There's a workspace with persistent files, state, output, isolated code execution, workflows that run on demand or schedule from connected systems. There's an app layer where every use case becomes a real full stack app with its own database. And you can share it live or hand it to a coworker as a blueprint with none of your data, history, credentials, connections, etc. And then sitting between those 2 is a gatekeeper. So every agent starts with no access. Credentials never live inside generated code, and the gatekeeper hands out narrow typed capabilities. It records which resources the agent actually looks at, constrains what it can pass downstream, and mediates every side effect on the way out. So the honest part, Cloudflare says every employee got version 1 in May, and thousands of people across the country use it daily. That's their number, but the V2 README says early access had rough edges. That's fine. We're not, pitching on adoption, but the shape is default deny, credentials outside the code, typed capability, and a log of what got touched. This is an enterprise harness. Now put that next to far.ai, red team leaderboard that came out this week, because it lands to the same conclusion from the opposite end. Far.ai reports the cost of a universal jailbreak swinging by something like 170 times across frontier models. So $58 on the cheap end for Grok 4.5, north of $14,000 for the same attack against Fable 5. Their numbers, their methodology, it's color, but if the model you're standing on can vary by 2 orders of magnitude on how hard it is to break, then the model isn't really the thing that you control. The boundary is. The second repo, which does kind of the same thing, different surface, Y Combinator pushed Qwen, as you mentioned, July 29th. The latest push was August 1st, multiplayer agent harness for Slack in the web, memory, files, keychain views, permissions, crons, web apps, durable sandboxes, all scoped per person and per room. So you can have these sandboxes that apply only to you, and you can share one within a team in a room. So that's a distinction that agent products haven't bothered to make at this point. I've seen implementations. We have a regular attendee of the Weekly Claw that has built a whole ecosystem around OpenClaw in Slack, separating rooms. I don't know that we don't have sandboxes per person and per room in that implementation, but this idea of context, being separated per user. I mean, that's just enterprise agent stack. So this gives you one runtime. It lets you run any harness. So you can put Pi under it, open code, Codex, Claude Code, swap the engine, keep the same governance. But the part I'd point out really is the security posture. And there's 3 named modes. There's strict, auto, and dangerous. And even under dangerous, the YC Combinator runtime hard denies destructive operations, which is a policy enforced below the model instead of politely requested in the prompt. YC says they run it internally. We can't say that it's battle tested, but the README is a receipt for the design, not the deployment. I put these side by side because Cloudflare is a public company building this for thousands of its own employees. YC is an accelerator publishing a repo that's relatively new. They don't have a whole lot in common, and there's no real reason for them to converge, but they landed on the same 3 answers. Default deny, scope the memory, put a kill switch underneath the model. So 2 teams who aren't talking to each other build the same thing in the same week. That's a segment. Okay. For the signal from the outside today, I'd like to talk to you about the Agent AI Summit at UC Berkeley, which we only have one slide for. Okay. It's 40 hours long. I did not watch the whole thing. What I did was, I think what any one of us would do, take the transcript of the entire thing and mine it for gold nuggets using models. I used Sonnet and Opus 5 and just started looking for, what are the takeaways that are going to help builders. And I wasn't looking for predictions about where agents are going or evidence of what they've already produced. I took the output and I checked it against the slides because the auto captions were somewhat creative. And here's what came out of it. The framing came from the guy who opened the developer track, an MIT materials scientist, and I'm fairly confident it was Marcus Buehler. His take-home slide was one sentence I keep coming back to. AI for biology and material science is, quote, moving from retrieving knowledge to autonomous discovery and knowledge creation. From retrieval to creation. He drew it as a fire to fusion relationship. On one side, data, model, prediction, the thing we've had for years. On the other, hypothesis, exploration, revision, and new principle. It's a big claim, and normally that's where a conference talk would leave it, as aspirational. But 25 minutes later, on the same stage, somebody cashed it. The next talk is built on a project called Paper to Agent. The idea is you turn a research paper into an agent. The paper stops being a PDF that you read and becomes something that you can query and run. It's a neat trick. But then he does the thing that makes you think twice. He takes 2 of these paper agents and points them at each other. One is built on AlphaGenome, DeepMind's genomics model, and the other is built on an ADHD genome-wide association study. And he let them collaborate. They start with 209 candidate genetic variants, which is the haystack, and the agent narrows it to 1, the needle. And they don't just flag it, they propose the mechanism. It alters splicing on a particular gene in a particular class of neurons, which changes how the gene gets expressed, which is a plausible causal pathway for ADHD risk. The slide title is Agent-Agent Collaboration equals New Discoveries, and the figure on it was generated by the agents, which was pretty cool. You should definitely check it out. I'm not a geneticist, and I can't tell you how big that finding is in their field. What I can tell you is what category it's in, and it's not an agent retrieval, fact retrieval thing. This is 2 agents talking to each other and coming out the other side with a claim that wasn't in either paper. So there you have the receipts. That's the ceiling, and then there's the floor. How good are these things actually getting, and can you measure them? Well, Silas Alberti from Cognition, the Devon people, they also picked up Windsurf, showed a chart from one of their reinforcement learning runs. Internal set of verifiable software engineering tasks, solve rate plotted against training step, and it starts at 52.4% and ends at 68.7%. And what does that even mean? It's a shape that's interesting. The curve climbs to 60% and then just sits there, flat, wobbling, like for a long stretch in the middle of the run. And if you were watching it live, you'd think it had hit a wall. And then late in the run, it breaks and climbs to 68.7. Alberti mentions that as training goes in, the model starts choosing to think for longer on its own. Nobody told it to. It just chose that. Then there was a talk on finance. I don't have the presenter's name. The way the YouTube videos are organized, it's kind of a lot. But he's doing tool calling and fine-tuning over 1 million finance Q&A pairs and evaluates them against a benchmark called SecQ, which is built out of the questions analysts actually ask digging through SEC filings. Her best recipe took Qwen 3 14b, brought it up 11 percentage points. And I had this wrong initially, so I want to be accurate. Percentage points, not percents. So 59.7 to 70.7. So that's fine-tuning, being very effective. But the number I'd want to put in front of anyone running agents in production is the third one on her slide, 25% fewer output tokens. So not only did the model that was fine-tuned perform, 20% better, it did so with 25% fewer tokens, 1,815 down to 1,613. So accuracy was unchanged, same answer, a quarter less spend, so 75% spend. And of course, that brings us to what matters most for us. This guy from AMD, Madi, and I only know his first name because he introduced himself to his own agent during the live demo. He ran a workshop on hybrid routing, and his setup argument is that mixture of experts implemented so that a gate wakes one specialist instead of a whole network. And it's probably the right instinct. But on his side, he says it all lives inside one model. So his move is to take the routing idea out of the model and apply it between the models, a local one on the box in front of you, a frontier one in the cloud. And his line is, not every token deserves the best frontier model out there. And that makes a lot of sense. The runtime he does is in OpenClaw. So AMD on a Berkeley stage using OpenClaw as reference architecture is kind of cool. He stops mid-talk to explain to the room what it is and mentions the founder is in the building, which, hi, Peter. He describes an agent as a workspace plus a few markdown files and shows 4 ways to route inside it. 2 you drive by hand, and 2 the system runs for you. But the demo that stuck with me was 2 agents side by side. Same prompt to both. Read this financial CSV, same underlying capabilities. The cloud agent has file system and runtime tools denied by the config, and the local one doesn't. Well, the cloud agent refuses. The wording on his slide is exact. It won't read the file, not because it can't, but because the policy says it shouldn't. Same task, same capability, different boundary. One produces nothing and one produces a report. So that's the connection I didn't really expect. We spend enormous energy asking how capable these things are getting. And the cognition curve and the SecQ numbers say steadily, measurably more capable. But Madi's demo is the reminder that capability isn't output. What an agent actually produces is downstream of the boundary you draw around it. And if you're running any of this yourself, you are the person drawing that boundary in a text file, probably at 11 o'clock at night or later. But the other thing that's interesting is on method, and I said I would come back to it. I checked 5 of these agents, 5 of these claims against actual slides because I was just using the transcript. One of the captions had the slide pretty much perfect. One was much richer than the transcript suggested, and one was just wrong coming out of the analysis. 2 of the model names had turned out to be garbled audio. So the real difference between mining a transcript of a YouTube video and attending an event and paying close attention is real. I would say 40 hours of a conference versus, 2 hours of research. But that's the honest scope. So if you were there and I missed a thing that you would have led with, tell me. I'd rather hear it, I think, than keep mining. This episode is brought to you by Heritage Telecom. Trusted phone systems from trusted people. Heritage designs and supports the whole communication stack for your business. Dependable phones, failover, reporting, and practical AI that turns calls into action. One accountable provider who actually answers. Start with the problem, not the product list, at heritagetel.com. Henry, what do you say we call it here? I don't know that we need to beat the hot takes in favor of the clock. Any objections? Well, it'd be nice to get some receipts, I think, an independent reproduction of the WeatherNext lead time result on actual storms. We've got the data from 2023 to 2025, so we could probably see that. Let me share our slides here. Sorry, guys. I don't multitask as well as probably need to.
Thank you, John B. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So the question is whether they'll, whether that extra day will really hold on storm classes that the paper didn't cover. I'd like to see Prime Agent's next disclosure. Interesting to see this other model as well. If Refine learned one exploit, nothing structurally stops it from learning 3. The next thing I'd want to see isn't the next failure. It would be a rollback story once an exploit is sitting in a persistent skill set. 3, production report on Cloudflare OS or QM. That's not from the lab that hosted it. Maybe an independent team's first week. That would be really interesting to see. And a bonus thing I'll be watching for all quarter, whether hardwired silicon shows up in anybody's routing config. If the model is the commodity and the boundary is the product, then baking a specific model into a chip is either the smartest bet of the year or the most expensive way to be wrong. So we'll see. But everything from tonight, sources link, the Berkeley research notes, archived at weeklyclaw.ai, full episodes and highlights on YouTube, and clips and takes we'll be putting on X. We're back next Friday, August 14th, 4 p.m. Eastern. And, Elton, you're not the only one suggesting we move the show. So seriously, anyone watching this, if they'd like to participate live and the time isn't convenient, go to the website and submit some feedback to us. We're really interested in making a show that people want to watch and want to participate in live. So with that, I'll close the show. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Thanks, everyone.